Because, as I explained before, I'm trying to record as much as possible about my family situation, also the other ongoing situations like with Vivid Homes, for example, and the NHS. But specifically here, it's with my family situation. Now, a point that I don't feel necessarily comes across is the codependent nature of the relationship I had with my mother when I was living at home, including as an adult. And I am somebody who struggles. I had dyspraxia. I didn't know what it was. I still have it, obviously, but I didn't know what it was until I was diagnosed with it at 26. I actually read up and found out about it, and it was confirmed and diagnosed by a doctor subsequently. So, but the point is, I had a lot of issues, and I was encouraged to be very codependent on my mum. Then there were also lots of things where I was encouraged to be dependent on my dad, but that always went through my mum, and it was quite a bizarre situation. I remember one boyfriend that I was seeing, Mike. He described it as, "Do you have to go home to get your ass wiped?" He might have said bum. Actually, he might have been less rude than I. I don't know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. The gist is the same. But yeah, basically he did sum it up as that. And even though that's crude and obviously not not actually literal at all, but at the same time he had a point. Now, I feel like this is relevant because once I left home to get married, we lived together first, but once I left home with Colin, anyway, and yeah, soon after that we were married. But once I left home and could no longer be controlled in the usual way, which there was a very, very controlling aspect of it as well, and keeping things from the family. And when I look back, a lot of things, there was a lot of secrecy and strangeness, and yeah, there were lots of things that were going on. But basically, I feel like I've suffered a lot because basically my mum needed help and didn't accept that she needed help, and everyone sort of covered for her, and I was the person who lost out. And it's very, very difficult to explain the things in a nutshell, and obviously I without coming up with examples and things, but and it makes it sound, some of the things, if you explain it, makes it sound like well, isn't that good? Wasn't she just being kind? And it's like, she resented me the entire time. She liked my brother, she didn't like me, I will say that. She literally not only didn't love, also just didn't like me. And she resented me and still does, but she's got this duty sort of thing. But yeah, she didn't teach me to do things for myself, and in some ways it saved me from some dangerous situations, because I would have moved into places that might not have been great. But then if everything had been as it should have been, then a lot of the things wouldn't have come up. But yeah, so I didn't go from being like a really, really independent person to you're going to be. Basically, once my mum couldn't control me, she made a decision that they were not going to help me anymore. It's like, oh, you've got Colin now, so bye bye. And it was literally no hands-on help. And then I had the sort of extremes of interference in different ways, which was equally negative, actually more negative, from Colin's side of the family. And I was left on my own, to be the person on my own in the midst of them. And I don't know, but because it's a lot of it, increasingly, as some of the older people died off anyway, it revolved around a married in and her family, and it isn't really even about Colin's family. It's about her and her influence and her family. Anyway, I had no support from my side of the family whatsoever in all the things I've had to navigate, and it wasn't as though it was like there was nothing gradual about it. It was like a punishment. It's like the punishment for you've left home is that we won't be involved at all. You will have no hands on. You can they wouldn't store any of my belongings there at all, whereas my brother's just allowed to. I've covered some of it already, and it all overlaps and it all interacts, and I know I'm not explaining it well. I know that however I say it, because everything's so involved and dependent on other things, it's very difficult to explain it and actually not just come across as, oh, she's just a negative person, she's just moaning about everything. I know all the things and I know all the ways, because I've had all the I've dealt with all those attitudes. But what I'll say is that I just feel like the codependency aspect hasn't necessarily been addressed in other videos. I don't know whether it has or not, but because there's so many elements, and I'm just trying to portray it accurately, because even though like hardly anyone actually listens to what I'm saying, I'm trying to preserve it in some form in case anything does happen to me, because else what is there really? I don't feel like the people responsible have been held accountable, and I feel like there are things that could be done so much better, and things like for example, I struggle with things to do with my, like, maintaining a mobile phone, and things to do with maintaining my computer and things, and that's not something that services are going to help with. It's something that they expect your family to help with, and mine just won't. So that's just one example, but it's just little things that it wouldn't hurt for somebody to be able to help with. And it's not just any one thing, but there are quite a lot of the things, and they come up quite regularly, and I feel it's actually just part of my punishment that nobody will help me. But also my mum didn't want me involved with anyone other than her before anyway. It had to be her or dad, her or dad, her or dad, but it couldn't be anybody outside of that. So it was very much like that when I was a child, and also when I was a young adult still living at home. So yeah, and to the point where she made decisions that were just wrong, like about the morning after pill. But anyway, that there are accounts of that, so I'll leave it there for now, because I don't think I'm expressing it that well, but it will do for now.